On the line is the opposition leader, Tony Abbott. Good morning.
Morning, Neil.
Is your economic policy finished yet?
Well, our economic policy is pretty clear. We abolished the carbon tax, we abolished the mining tax. If we do that, we take the pressure off jobs and investment. We reduce red tape to the tune of $1 billion a year. That will be very helpful to small business.
So is it finished yet?
Well, we will always be dotting I's and crossing T's. But you know what you get with us, Neil.
But one of the things, the reason I ask is not to be smart about it, but you've said that you will improve the government's fiscal position.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't that mean you've got to at least match or better the $17 billion in cuts that they announced last week?
And we will be putting out our full fiscal statement in good time before the election, after the pre-election fiscal outlook is released by the government.
That's why I asked whether it's finished, because there was some last-minute changes last Friday. Will you match the $17 billion in cuts or better them?
Well, we certainly won't be going ahead with the $1.8 billion slug on the car industry. The car industry has suffered enough from this government. It doesn't need this.
Yep.
And of course, if you're someone on $50,000 a year with a company-provided vehicle, you'll be $1,400 a year worse off because of this slug alone.
So you'll have to make that up somewhere. Where would you get the $17 billion or more?
Well, what I say to you, Neil, and to your listeners, is that all of the initiatives that we announce in this campaign will be fully costed and fully funded. Now, when in my budget reply I said that we will scrap the carbon tax, but you will keep the tax cuts and the benefit increases which were provided as compensation, I identified $15 billion worth of savings over the forward estimates to pay for that, and that's what we're going to be doing through this campaign.
But aren't you going to need more than that now? Because if you're going to be better than the government's fiscal position, you're going to have to match their $17 billion. You're already returning the $1.8 billion from the car deal. That means you're looking up around $19 billion in cuts. Is that right, or have I got that wrong?
All in good time, Neil. I know you want absolutely every last detail.
No, I'm looking for a principle here. Are we looking at $19 billion worth of cuts?
Well, what I said in the budget reply was that there were many things that this government was doing that we didn't like and that shouldn't be done because this is a government which has ruined the fiscal inheritance that it received from Peter Costello and from John Howard. And we may have to embrace some of the expenditure reductions that this government has put forward, even though we don't like them, and even though we think a better government wouldn't have to slug smokers, wouldn't have to slug savers. So, in good time before the election, you'll have your answer on these
Okay.
things.
Well, the smokers thing, will you reverse that?
Well, in good time before the election, you'll have your answer on these things, Neil.
Okay. What about a general point, though? Will you better the $17 billion in cuts from the government?
Our fiscal position, our overall budgetary position, will be better than Labor's.
So that means there'll be more cuts?
What it means is that all of our new initiatives will be fully costed and fully funded.
Okay. Will there be, as part of this balancing in the books, tax rises?
Well, we're going to abolish the carbon tax, we're going to abolish the mining tax, and we're going to provide, as soon as we can, a modest company tax cut. So we want sensible expenditure reductions rather than this knee-jerk hitting people with taxes whenever the government's got a problem.
So can you say, and again in a general sense, not the detail, there will be no tax rises?
Certainly, we are absolutely committed to avoiding taxes on individuals, extra taxes on individuals. We think that the people and the families of Australia pay quite enough tax already.
Okay, that doesn't mean there won't be taxes in other areas that flow on to the people, though, does it? Like the banks, like cigarettes.
Well, look, I know you're here to be a watchdog on behalf of the people, and I know you're here to ruthlessly interrogate me, Neil. But I don't want to be one of those politicians who leaves people in doubt. I certainly don't want to be one of those politicians who says one thing before an election and does the opposite afterwards. But I can't answer all of your questions about various hypotheticals today.
Okay. Are you trying to avoid a debate? Kevin Rudd does debate well, doesn't he?
Look, he talks a lot, no doubt about that. Whether that's good debating, who knows? I'm not trying to avoid a debate, Neil. There will be, as far as I'm concerned, at least 3 debates between me and Kevin Rudd. There'll be debates, I think, there should be, between Joe Hockey and the Treasurer, between Julie Bishop and the Foreign Minister, between Malcolm Turnbull and the Deputy Prime Minister. We should have a whole range of debates, but it isn't all about Kevin Rudd. It's not all about me either. It should be about the Australian people. That's why it's very important that this election campaign is not some insider bubble where Tony Abbott, Kevin Rudd, and a few journalists argue with each other.
No, that's a fair point.
There's got to be an engagement with the people.
Well, what about Talk Radio does that well? What about a radio debate for a change? We did talk only last week, and you said, "Oh well, I won't debate till there's an election campaign." What about here in the studio one day with an audience?
Happy to think about that, but the trouble, Neil, is if we do it for 3AW, we've got to do it for 2GB, we've got to do it for 2WS, we've got to do it for Today FM, we've got to do it for the Gallagher Bone Advocate.
I don't care about all
that. The thing is, there will be debates, Neil.
Okay.
There will be debates, and the first one, I think, should be a standard press club debate next Sunday, and followed by some people's forums, and that's what I put forward to the Labor Party.
Okay, Kevin Rudd says he's the underdog, and the bookies agree. Do you accept you're the favourite in this?
Well, look, I've always said that winning from opposition was like climbing Mount Everest. I certainly accept that this is a government which has disappointed everyone, and that Kevin Rudd over the last 5 weeks has been admitting that they got it wrong on just about everything.
4-1 on. Do you agree? 4-1 on.
Look, I'm not a punter. I don't gamble. So I'll do my best, Neil, between now and polling day to hold a bad government to account and to be a strong alternative.
Labor is clearly chasing young voters with tweets and pictures and all. How are you going to match that? How are you going to chase the young votes?
Well, I'm going to tweet shortly after this that I've had a terrific discussion with you, Neil, and you'll retweet it to all your followers, and hopefully we'll manage to let the world know that something's happening here on 3AW.
But seriously, I mean, if you are chasing the younger voters, it's more than tweets. How do you target them? How do you go after them?
Well, in the end, I think that young people, like old people, like migrants, like people of different gender and all the rest of it, I mean, we're all human beings, and I think in the end, what they want, what we want a better government, and whether you're young or old, you want less pressure on your cost of living, you want more security in your jobs, you want better infrastructure, you want stronger borders. And by the way, Neil, I did tweet about GWS's victory on the weekend.
Thank you very much.
You might not have liked so much.
No, we're talking to Kevin Sheedy later. He'll be pleased to hear that. Why should we trust you ahead of Kevin Rudd? It's a lot about trust this election. Why should we trust you? And let's not just use it as an excuse to kick Kevin, but why trust you?
Well, look at my record and look at Mr. Rudd's record and decide who's the steadier, who's the more reliable, who's more fair income.
But you're the one who said only believe what you write down, or so words to that effect. Now, do we believe everything that is said from now on?
I think that the public should look at me, and they should look at the commitments that I've made, and they should look at the commitments that I've kept, and they should look at the circumstances in which I've found myself and how I've responded, and they should make their judgment. And look, we all have our flaws, we all make our mistakes. From time to time, circumstances change. I accept that. And the public are capable of making
Okay.
a rational judgment about who in the end is most believable.
Just 2 quick points, and I'd love to see you come into the studio one day when you're in Melbourne, and we'll organise that with your staff.
Yep.
When will the first detailed policy be released now the campaign's started? And what will it be?
Well, we've released a lot of detailed policies already. Our National Broadband Network policy, our Workplace Relations policy, our Northern Australia policy, our Green Army policy. There's a lot of policy out there already, and most days more policy will be coming out.
And today, what will it be?
Well, I'll be releasing some further detail about how we will repeal the carbon tax as the first act of an incoming coalition government, as the first bit of legislation that a new parliament deals with.
And your vision. I mean, people talk about vision. What sort of Australia do you see in 20 years' time?
I want, obviously, an Australia which is economically stronger, which stands taller and prouder in our world and in our region, and which has an even stronger and better social fabric then than now. What I'm not about doing, though, Neil, is ramming my vision down everyone else's throats. I want to empower people, communities. I want to empower all of us to be better at realising our own visions. I want Australians to be better able to be their best selves.
Thank you for your time. You know you'll have to be ready for the election special questions that are going to be running right through this campaign. How much a litre of milk?
I think it's about $2, depending upon whether there's one of those Coles or Woolies specials.
Loaf of bread?
Oh dear, I think last time I bought one it was about $4, again depending upon whether you've got a special.
Pot of beer?
Ah, gee whiz, the last time I bought a beer it was about $6.
I don't know how long ago you put... All right, that's going to happen. That's inevitable. I suppose you can tell us the cost of a set of Lycra gear, can you?
Well, thankfully on the polypedal now, we got a set of gear as part of our rider's fee.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Good on you, mate.